Hi and welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast for another Authors Tuesday. Today I'm delighted to be joined by another great author on the podcast from the US. So it's great to welcome, it's Desiree T. Young. I didn't want to mess up your name, Desiree, but I hope I did a good job. You're very welcome along to the podcast today. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And you pronounced it great. Perfect.
Thank you. Thanks very Thank you. So we might just start the podcast off if you wouldn't mind telling the listeners about your journey as a writer, please. Because I think it's a really good journey. So if you want to share that with the listeners, it'd be perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I've been writing ever since I was in middle school, just random stories here and there. For me, writing was my place of escape from the world around me. It was also how I made sense of what was happening in the world around me as well. I minored in creative writing when I was in school because I was determined. I was like, hey, you know what? Someday I am going to be a published author. And when I first started, I was like, you know what? I'm going to write fiction. That is going to be my main motive here. And when I finished college, I still wanted to write, but it wasn't something that I actually like focused on. I did other things after college. And in 2017, I was driving home one day and I was just like, God, what is the skill that you've given me to like impact the people around me? And I wasn't depressed or anything like that. I wanted to know because I'm at this point in my life. And he said writing. At first I was like, writing? Really? That seems kind of odd, but I got the idea for my first book in that conversation. I was like, okay, cool. So I started writing and I was on fire. I wrote for months on end, getting chapters done, hollowing out characters and everything with that. I was so excited. And then I got stuck. I got stuck because I was like, what if no one actually reads my book? What if no one likes what I wrote? What if I'm actually not as good a writer as I think I am? All the different doubts that we all have as writers and creative people. And there were a couple people who would talk with me and they're like, hey, you know what? This is really random, but I feel like you're supposed to be writing a book. And I was like, who told you? Who ratted me out? So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, paying attention, Lord. I started writing more. And when 2020 hit and all the craziness was going down, the world was like, hey, everyone stay in your homes. I took that opportunity to finish writing and I finished about half the manuscript. I had it done by the end of quarantine. So I sent that over to a publisher and they gave some suggestions, helped me get my book out. So I became a published author in 2020, which was really exciting. And when I was done, I was like, cool, awesome. I'm a published author. I accomplished my dream. This is great. And then some of my friends were like, so when are you writing your next book? What do you mean my next book? Do you have any idea how hard it was to write the first one? You want another one?
Yeah.
Was not a fan. But as I started growing and continuing to go about my life, I was like, you know what? There are other things that I could write and share a bit of my journey with other people. So I decided to write my second book, which was a memoir on mental health and faith. And I shared a bit about my journey and my struggles and how my faith helped pull me out of a lot of different things. And after that second book was done, I was asked to partner with a few other people to write a third book. So I was like, okay, cool. So in 3 years, I wrote three books, which is absolutely amazing. I got to lead a writers group for 2 years and empower and impact other people to write as well. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm excited to continue it on.
That's a great story. Thanks a lot for sharing that with everybody, Desiree. That's really good. And you say that you got a publisher as well with your books. Did you find that difficult to get a publisher, Desiree, or did it take you long?
Um, Not really. I knew about this publisher, so I sent them a pitch and they really liked it. I know some people are like, "Oh, it's really difficult to get a publisher," and it depends on what your book is about and things with that. I personally found it easy, but I know that's not everyone's experience. So,
Yeah. No, no, congratulations. That's great. That's really, really cool. And I hope it's going really well for you. That's brilliant. And can you tell the listeners the names of your three books, please, you've written,
yeah.
and a bit
If I
about them
could,
as
I'm
well?
gonna
It'd be
show
brilliant.
off the
Thank you.
covers too.
Yeah, yeah, great stuff.
So
Yeah,
this first one is called Kaleidoscope: A Journey to Hope. It's a realistic fiction novel. The subject matter is sensitive, so trigger warning for those of you listening. It is a story about human trafficking. I don't go into a whole lot of nitty gritty with it,
Yeah.
but that is the subject matter.
Yeah.
The second book is called Winning the Silent Battle, Exposing 8 Lies Hindering Your Mental Health. And this book, I talk about my struggles with anxiety, perfectionism, self injury ideation, and an addiction. And I talked about how I was believing a lot of lies that were keeping me stuck on the hamster wheel and how I learned the truth to help me start breaking free of that. The third book is called Broken Chapters. And this was a collaboration with 21 authors total, everyone from around the world, which was really amazing.
Wow.
We all shared times in our lives when we've been broken and God has come in and brought healing and restoration. My particular chapter, I talk about what it was like watching my parents go through 4 divorces and how that affected me mentally and emotionally. There are other chapters where people struggled with eating disorders and how they came to cope and heal from that. There are people who struggled with abusive relationships that they had to get out of and start to rework their lives after that. There is one chapter, it's called From Wallflower to Warrior, which I absolutely love the title. And
Right. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
the author talks about her journey of overcoming timidity and shyness and learning to be more assertive in her life. And there are several other beautiful, amazing stories in this book as well. This one's kind of my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the three.
Mm. And how did you organize that, like with so many authors? How did you just get that together? That's a great,
Um,
very
yeah,
interesting.
so our project manager, her name is Krista.
Yeah.
Krista Dunk. She has her own publishing company that she started, and she kind of headed everything up. She was like, "Okay, this is the vision that I'm having for the book,
Mm.
and this is what I'm envisioning each of the chapters looking like." So we were given parameters, and then we were given free reign within those parameters to write. We had to give the rough drafts to her by a certain date, so she could do some pre-edits and then send them over to the editor, and she organized everything with that and with formatting the book, um, helping us figure out some marketing strategies and things with that. So Chris is absolutely amazing. She was the project manager there, meeting with us and having monthly Zoom calls where we all, as much as we could, got on and talked more about the book, the expectations, deadlines, things like that.
Great. That's really, really good. So she had a kind of an idea of what way she wanted you all to kind of make the book. Is that
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I love the illustrations. The covers are really good. Who designed the covers for you?
So the cover design for Broken Chapters, Krista actually did that one. And the cover design for Winning the Silent Battle, I'm going to butcher his name. Hold on. Let me see if he wrote it on the inside here. I'm going to check really quick.
No problem.
Ah, I can get that information to you for who designed my cover. I can't.
Okay.
Alejandro, that's his name.
Yeah.
His
Right.
name is
So.
Alejandro. I don't remember his last name.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's amazing cover designer. I saw a few of his mock-ups and I was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. What can you do with it? And he gave me literally 8 different templates and was like, these look good. And this was my favorite. He changed the font a little bit for me. And yeah, he does amazing work.
Would you be happy to maybe just read the information on one of the books just for people to have a feel for one of your books, one of your favorite one that is all combined to make the book, please?
Sure. Reading like an excerpt from one of them.
Yeah, 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 please, yeah. That's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Let me pull this one out here.
thanks very much.
Okay. So I'm going to read an excerpt from Winning the Silent Battle.
Right, thank
And
you.
in chapter 3, I talk about the lies that pain was trying to tell me. And the truth is, pain doesn't define you. And let's see. The lie was all I have and will ever know is pain. Another lie is I am unloved. But the truth is I was made for love, not pain. And throughout the this particular chapter, I talk about some of the lessons I learned with that. But I particularly want to read a letter of hope. And with the letter of hope, this is written from the point of view from God to his child. So it says, "My dear child, it was never my intent that you would go through so much pain. It was never my intent that you would have these holes in your heart. I am so sorry for the pain that you've been through. I'm sorry for all the disappointments that you've endured. Will you allow me to heal the broken places in your heart? Will you allow me to fill them with my gold lacquer? Will you allow me to bring you joy again? Will you allow me to love you completely, intimately, and fiercely? I love you. I love you. Here's a glorious crown of life that I want to place on your head. There is a beautiful garment of purple that I want to place around your shoulders. You are my beloved. You are my treasure. I delight in you. I was not in the voices that tried to silence yours, but I am here with you now. I have always been with you, with my arms wrapped around you. I've never left you. In the darkest moments that you faced, you were not alone. I was there with you. I was holding your hand. I will carry you through every darkness. I will carry you through every pain into the light if you let me. I love you. I love you so much. Will you let me bring you into a place of healing and wholeness? It is my desire that you would be whole and fully who I created you to be: beautiful, strong, brave, holy, loved. You are so loved. I am here always. Sincerely, your kingly father.
Wow, that's really powerful. Really, really, really nice. Yeah, really good stuff. Because yeah, because this is kind of a motivational podcast as well. So that's really 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 helpful for the listener as well. Thanks a lot for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, because it leads me nicely on to the next question as well. Like like your books are about helping people dealing with kind of mental health issues. Can you give maybe a few examples of the ways you portray that in the books, please, just for the people who are listening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that I had to learn with my struggles with anxiety and perfectionism, was stuck in this mindset of I have to get everything right at once and I cannot make any mistakes. Mistakes in my mind were fatal. And that's simply not true. So one thing that I do in my book is I talk about our mindset when we look at mistakes. Mistakes are not, the end all be all. They're not the final nail in the coffin, and mistakes only have control and power over you if you let them. Mistakes are opportunities for us to learn, and they're opportunities for us to grow. And if we did everything perfectly the first time, we wouldn't have anything to help us grow in any way, shape, or form. And it's okay if we go through some trial and error, because not everything we do the first time is going to be the correct time or the correct path. And I talk about different jobs that I held after college where I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is what everything is going to be like. And to have your path so set at 22 years old, it's like this is your job and that's the only thing that you're ever going to do for 60 years. That's kind of bleak.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
life is all about change, and it's okay to try something for a while and realize, hey, this isn't what I'm meant to do. The entire thing isn't wasted. Take what you can to learn from that. There are jobs that I've had where it's like, okay, I learned this about myself. I learned this about how the world operates. Okay, those are lessons that I can use in my next job or somewhere else down the line. Like my current 9 to 5 job is in insurance. It's not what I went to school for.
Yeah, yeah.
I've learned so much in working in insurance. I've learned how long a roof lasts and questions to ask when you are buying a house, things to look for when you're doing an inspection that I never would have thought of or considered had I not worked in insurance. So there's a give and take with everything there. And it's all about our mindset and perspective. And I talk about different trappings that we can fall into with our thinking and ways to recognize them and pull ourselves out.
That's amazing. That's really good because there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. That's a way kind of that's what I get out of that. So because what way you're gonna learn if you don't make mistakes? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And which books do you are the main ones you help, or do you all kind of entail that kind of positive, like positive way of dealing with things?
So the main one would be winning the silent battle. Again,
Okay.
broken chapters is great, but everything that
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
broke down a minute ago is going to be in winning the silent battle.
Great, great. And did it take you long to write that particular book, Desiree?
With my second one, actually, no. So I wrote out a mind map, getting all my ideas out on paper, and I wrote out an outline. I wasn't able to sit down and write it because I had a couple other exams to prepare and take for with work. So I remember I actually went on two vacations one year because my mom took me to Vegas for my 30th birthday.
Lovely.
And then a month later, I went on vacation with my dad and my brother and their significant others. And because this was vacation number two, I'm pretty well rested from the first vacation.
Yeah.
So I spent 3 hours every day writing. So from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., I wrote. And then after that, I would go to the beach, lay in the sand, walk down the boardwalk, go ride some rides. Like I had fun on my vacation, but I also sat down and wrote. And I finished writing the rough draft within that week.
That sounds like a really good strategy. Really good strategy. Yeah, great stuff.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Well done. That's absolutely amazing. Thanks a lot for sharing that with everybody. That's really cool. And can I just ask you, like, this is kind of a question that I've been asking people, but like not an actual success, the biggest success, but maybe something that comes to mind which is made you the happiest in your journey with writing, if you can think of something that really, that really stands out for you.
Yeah. So I have two answers for that. One is I get to say I'm a published author. Actually, I get to say I'm a three-time published author. I read a statistic that said 81% of people think about writing a book. About 19% actually sit down to start writing, and only 3% actually finish.
Mm.
And that's a little sad when you think about it. And at the same time, I'm like, I'm part of the 3% that said, I'm going to write a book and I actually finished. That's amazing and huge. So pat myself on the back for
Oh yeah,
that.
great stuff.
And
Yeah.
the second thing is when I led a writers group, which led to me starting a book coaching and publishing company. I got to empower and equip other people to write, and through that, I've seen people become published authors. One particular person, her name is Cheryl. I love Cheryl. She's amazing. She is such a creative person, and when she first started coming to writers group, she's like, "Well, my husband said I should come, so I'm here." But she wasn't really sure why she kept coming, and but she allowed me to challenge her, and through challenging her and encouraging her, she's a published author today. Like she has her first book out there, and she's been able to give copies away and talk with people about her writing, and people have come back to her and said, wow, your story really inspired me, your story really brought healing to me. And she wouldn't be able to say that if she didn't sit down and write or allow me to challenge her to write. And that's so beautiful when other people are able to push past their insecurities to get that done.
Yeah, that's a great story, Desiree. And your publishing side of things as well. If you want to share the information that for people to contact you, I'm sure you'll get some feedback. You can give some feedback of how to do that. You know that you send me the information I can put on the show notes. Be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the website for my publishing company is called kingsglorypublishinghouse.com.
Okay.
And there you're able to find more information there. I offer book coaching, editing, and marketing services. The
Mm.
book coaching is a couple one on one sessions with me, and it's also a course that I provide for you to help you actually write your book. I also provide weekly write in sessions where we just hop on a Zoom call and we write. That way you can get your momentum going and start getting that built into your schedule there. I check in with you on a week by week basis to see how you're doing, offer encouragement with things with that. Once your rough draft is finished, I offer you some suggestions for some self edits, and then I send you to my editor. I have an editor in California that I work with who's absolutely amazing. Her name is Tiffany. She does phenomenal work, and she'll do developmental edits, copy editing, and proofreading to help refine your work. Afterwards, I help you with publishing your work, and if you need help with marketing services as well, I do provide that also.
Yeah. Well, that's great because it sounds like it's really open. Your writing has really opened you up to all different avenues. Really, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
writers need so much help. I
Yeah.
needed so much help. I'm like, how do you do this? So
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to touch all of that.
Yeah.
Um, I will say this, I don't publish children's books. I'm sorry. I love children's books. They're great. I
Yeah,
will refer you to someone that I know does
perfect.
amazing work with children's books. But
No,
like nonfiction, fiction books, I got you.
yeah, great. And it would so yeah, thank you. As well as that, would this be a anybody that's listening across the world be able to contact you? You work with people on Zoom, obviously all over the world, with your
Yeah.
copywriting. Yeah,
Yeah, most of the stuff is done online and via Zoom. So
yeah,
I'm able to work with people on other sides of the world with setting up individual meetings. That might get a little tricky depending on the time frames,
yeah.
but we can definitely try to make something work.
Great, great. I'll look forward to sharing all that information in the show notes for people to find as well. Desiree.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. And as well, where can people get their hands on your books? I know I'd say Amazon, but are they in any bookshops or libraries for people to check out?
So most of my sales are done online. So Amazon will definitely have them. For people who are in the US, you're able to purchase them on my website and you can get signed copies that way. If you're not in the US, I'm sorry, you have to go through Amazon.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
my website is DesireeThiessa.com. Thiessa is spelled Theassa. And yeah, you're able to access my books. You're also able to get a sneak peek as to what I'm working on next. So that'll be fun.
yeah. And where else have you found? Have you got any of your books in local bookshops? Have you went down that avenue yourself?
I haven't tried local bookshops yet. I've done some like pop-up shows at craft fairs and been able to sell them in person that way.
Mm,
But I haven't tried the small bookshops avenue yet. I do have a list that is in my goals for the next, like 6 or 12 months to
yeah,
actually have my books there.
right. And it has Barnes and Noble. Have you got have you is your books available in Barnes and Noble as well?
Online for Barnes and Noble. So if you go
Yeah,
online, because when you list them through Ingram Spark lists it and all the other online platforms there, so
yeah,
you'd be able to find it that way.
yeah. And through your website as well, as you said, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, signed copies.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And what ways have you found the best ways to market your book so far since you've released them? Desiree?
So two ways. There's the long game and the short game. The long game is with social media, using posts to post different quotes and snippets here and there. When you do your initial book launch, like having a virtual launch on Facebook and also like in person launch, and also doing craft shows here and there. I will say this, not all craft shows are the same. So I've been to craft shows where I was lucky to sell one copy of my book, and I've been to craft shows where I've sold 20 copies. So it really depends on how it's marketed and where the location is and the time frame as well. I did a book fair, book fair at a bookstore, where me and several authors, we all had our books, and there were only like 10 people. And what ended up happening was that was the weekend where Waukesha had all the things happening. So they had things happening Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. Saturday night, people were like, I'm staying home because I'm going out the next day. So tempering with that. And I also participated in a Christmas market where there were hundreds of people, and I was able to sell, a couple dozen copies of my books.
Right.
So it all depends on, like the location and the timing and what's all happening in your area. But those are the two best ones that I've found. The craft shows are really good for selling copies of your book, but harder to get people's emails for your email list.
Yeah, yeah,
um, but still worth it.
yeah. And over in Ireland, we have like markets where you sell your books. Maybe like the people traveling over from different countries. Like, is that something that you've tried yourself? Like,
um, Traveling to other countries and selling, or
oh no, sorry. Like, there's different markets that take place around around the country where you go and sell your books. Is that something you've tried or yourself?
uh, sort of. So there is a book fair happening in Green Bay, which is about 3 hours north of me, that I will be participating in next June. So that would be my first, like traveling outside of my city for that.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
yeah. Oh, great. No, the best of luck with that. Can I ask you as well, Desiree, what's next for yourself in your journey as an author? And you'd like to share with people coming up, things you'd like to share to watch out for?
Sure. So what's next for me? I am currently working on a fantasy series called The Dragon's Well. And The Dragon's Well is a portal fantasy. It takes place it starts off in the town of Murdoch and travels through a portal to the Dragon's Well. There there are obviously dragons.
Yeah, yeah,
And the dragons can endow their riders with various different powers and abilities. And there are people trying to get to the dragon's well who want the power all for themselves. So, some in the first book, there are people in Murdoch who know about the dragon's well who are trying to keep it a secret from the great tyrant Casimir. Because if he gets a hold of the dragon's well and the power, everyone is pretty much going to die. So it's a race against trying to stop him while also trying to help the people of Murdoch the best they can with the abilities that they've gathered from the Dragon's Well. So it's a great series for anyone who enjoys Aragon, How to Train Your Dragon, and the Chronicles of Narnia.
yeah,
So I'm very excited. I will have the first like actual novel that published sometime this fall or winter. And I'm also participating in an anthology of short stories with fantasy and sci fi books. And more details will come later on this year, but I've just finished a short story for that one, which I'm very excited because there will be dragons.
yeah, yeah.
There will be, it's going to be great.
Great stuff. No, the best of luck with that. That sounds great. It kind of, by listening to that, it sounds like it could be something that I'll be watching on Netflix soon, hopefully.
Yes.
Everybody's dream as an author, huh? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Goals.
And do you do any? Have you any readings and bookshops coming up? Aren't like that for people that are listening in your local area?
I don't have any readings and bookshops set up just yet, but
Yeah,
that is something that I'm going to be working on for the fall and winter.
yeah, yeah. And is there anything else I haven't asked you'd like to share with the listeners and the people on YouTube?
Um, Not really. I think we've covered it. We've gotten a good spread here.
Yeah, yeah. No, sure. Like I'm looking forward to sharing all your work on the show notes for people to check out as well because your books sound amazing and the the artwork is great as well. Would you like to maybe just show people the books again? Just people watching on YouTube, please. As we
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first book, Kaleidoscope: A Journey to Hope. Um,
good, yeah,
Again, sensitive subject matter.
yeah,
Uh, Next book, Winning the Silent Battle: Exposing Eight Lies Hindering Your Mental Health.
great stuff. Yeah, great stuff.
Third book, Broken Chapters: 21 Testimonies about how God rewrites your story.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Well done. Yeah, that's since it's a motivational podcast, Desiree, would you mind maybe from your own experience as an author and all the work you've done, if you were to kind of maybe put on a billboard for the whole world to see, what would you say to them to keep themselves motivated in their work, in their writing, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for anyone who is dreaming about being a published author or writer, go for it because you have no idea who your story is going to impact. Go for it because your story is going to be someone's favorite story someday. And yes, there may be one or two people who say, yo, that story was poop. That wasn't the greatest story. That's okay. Your book's not for them. It's for the
Yeah,
people who are going to read it and find hope. It's for the people who are going to find wholesome entertainment. It's for the people who are going to read your story and say, wow, I can really visualize this. I can really see this actually happening in my own life. So please keep going. Do not let the doubts or insecurities stop you because your book, your story matters. It is so important. So important. You might not even see how important it is yet. Like I wrote my book not knowing that it was going to impact people that I have never met before who send me messages saying, "Thank you so much for your bravery." And sometimes sharing your story is going to feel really raw and you're going to have to work through some things.
yeah.
That's okay. That's a part of the process. Keep going. Don't stop. Go for it.
That's a brilliant message. What a wonderful message, Desiree. I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you. So I wish you all the success going forward with everything you do. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me on the podcast today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you. So Desiree T. Young, I'm going to share all Desiree's information on the show notes, so make sure you check them out. And what's your email, what's your website again for people that are listening, please, Desiree?
Yes, my website is desireethiessa.com. Thiessa is spelled Theassa.
Right. Okay, so thanks again for watching and listening on Spotify today. So until next time, take good care of yourselves, and thanks a lot for listening. Take care. Thank you. Thanks, Desiree.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, Mark here. Thank you for watching another episode of my Authors Tuesday podcast. I recently published a book of children's stories called The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. The book began life as bedtime stories I wrote for my own children. If you'd like to purchase my book, follow the link in the description box below. By buying my book, you are also supporting my podcast series for authors, which is giving a voice to writers in Ireland and across the world.